Mia slipped into the high school cafeteria like a shadow, her tray barely holding a half-eaten sandwich. She was new, a transfer student with a quiet that clung to her like damp fog. At 17, her dark eyes scanned the room, not seeking attention, but avoiding it. She wore plain clothes, a faded hoodie, jeans that didn't scream for notice. Her presence was a whisper, but whispers draw eyes in a place like this. The cafeteria buzzed with clicks, laughter, and the clatter of trays, a chaotic symphony of teenage life. Mia chose a corner table, alone, her nose buried in a worn paperback, her fork untouched beside her plate. She didn't eat much, didn't speak much, didn't want much except to be left alone. But in a school like this, solitude was a magnet. For cruelty, Brad swaggered in, 18, tall, all lean muscle and arrogance. The football captain's Letterman jacket hung on his shoulders like a crown, his grin sharp enough to cut. His crew trailed him 3 guys, and his girlfriend Tara, all of them feeding off his energy like hyenas. Brad's eyes locked on Mia, sitting alone, her stillness an invitation to his brand of chaos. He leaned toward his friend Jake's voice, loud enough to carry, "Yo, who's the ghost girl over there? What's with the funeral vibes? Is that your style? Or is your life just that bleak?" Laughter erupted from his crew, a chorus of mockery that turned heads. Mia's gaze dropped to her book, her face unreadable. But a security camera overhead caught something else, her hand, gripping a metal spoon, knuckles whitening until they looked ready to crack. The next day, Mia was back at her corner table. Same book, same quiet. She'd learned to shrink herself, to blend into the background. But Brad and his crew had her scent now. They slid onto the bench beside her, their presence invasive, like smoke curling into every corner of her space. Brad leaned in, his voice dripping with mockery. "What's the deal, Mia? Allergic to friends? Or just shampoo?" Tara smirked, her eyes glinting with malice. "Let's see if she's got a spine," she said, grabbing a cup of water from the table and dumping it over Mia's shirt. The cold soaked through, plastering the fabric to her skin. The cafeteria exploded in laughter, a tidal wave of jeers and pointed phones. Mia didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't even blink. Her stillness was unnerving, a quiet that felt like the calm before a storm. The laughter died down, replaced by whispers, because something about her refusal to react wasn't weak, it was sharp, like a blade being honed. That night, Mia stood alone in a dimly lit garage, the air thick with the scent of oil and sweat. A heavy punching bag hung from the ceiling, swaying as she hammered it with brutal precision. Elbows, knees, fists, each strike landed with a thud that echoed her pulse. Her movements were fast, controlled, deadly. Flashbacks flickered in her mind. Her father, a former Marine, his face weathered and stern, teaching her to fight. Weekends spent sparring in this same garage, her knuckles bruised, her body aching, his voice steady. "Don't bark, Mia. Strike. Make it count." She learned to take hits, to bleed, to end fights before they could spiral. The bag rocked under her onslaught, her breath steady, her eyes burning with something fierce and unspoken. Back in the cafeteria days later, Brad's crew was relentless. They'd made Mia their project, their entertainment. This time they cornered her at lunch, their laughter louder, their boldness fed by the viral clip of her soaked shirt circulating online. Jake snatched her tray, tossing it aside. Another guy, Derek, yanked her sleeve, tearing the fabric with a rip that echoed in the suddenly quiet room. A student nearby, phone already out, cackled. "Shy girl's wardrobe malfunction. This is going viral." The words stung, but Mia's face stayed blank. Her body still. The cafeteria held its breath, sensing something shifting. Brad, emboldened by the crowd, leaned in, his grin predatory. "What? You gonna cry now?" He lunged, expecting her to crumble. Mia moved like lightning. She ducked his grab, her body fluid trained. Her knee snapped up, connecting with his ribs. A sharp pop echoed, and Brad collapsed, wheezing, his face a mask of shock. Derek grabbed her arm, but Mia twisted, her movements a blur, and threw him to the floor with a thud. Another guy rushed. Her, all bravado and no skill. Mia's hand shot out, a precise throat strike dropping him to his knees. Choking. The cafeteria erupted screams, gasps, phones still recording. Teachers stood frozen, unsure how to process the scene. Mia stood calm, her hair loose, her eyes steady, a warrior unmasked. The crowd parted as she walked away, her book still clutched in one hand, her steps measured, unbroken. Later, in the principal's office, the air was heavy with tension. The principal, a stern woman with graying hair, sat across from Mia, a laptop open to the security footage. "Mia, we reviewed the tape," she said, her voice firm but tinged with something like awe. "What you did was extraordinary." She slid a file across the desk. "This is a scholarship application for a martial arts training program in Tokyo. Like to sponsor you." Mia's eyes flickered, the first hint of emotion all day. She nodded, silent, her fingers brushing the file as if testing its reality. The video of Mia's takedown spread like wildfire. Clips flooded social media, hashtags blooming, hashtag shy no more, Hashtag hallway heroine. MidnightTales, the YouTube channel where Mia's story first gained traction, posted a montage of the fight, narrated with a voice that celebrated her quiet strength. The video racked up views, comments flooding in. Silent strength? Quiet warriors rise. At school, the hallways changed. Students who once ignored Mia now nodded as she passed, some mumbling apologies. Brad's locker stood empty. He'd transferred out his reign over Mia, walked the halls. Same book in hand, same calm in her step. Her phone buzzed, a voice message to her father. Hey Dad, you were right. You don't have to bark to be dangerous. Just strike when it counts. The cafeteria, once a battleground, was different now. Whispers followed Mia, but they weren't cruel. They were curious, respectful. Smiles flickered from strangers, tentative but genuine. They'd torn her uniform, exposed her to ridicule, but in doing so, they'd revealed the warrior beneath. Power, she'd learned, didn't come from noise or bravado. It came from precision, from silence, from striking when it mattered most. MidnightTales posted another video, a follow-up titled The Quiet Warrior, urging viewers to comment silent strength if they believed in those who fight without fanfare. The comment section overflowed, a testament to the power of quiet resolve. Mia's story wasn't just a moment, it was a shift. She didn't need to shout to be heard. Her actions spoke louder than any taunt, any jeer. The scholarship to Tokyo was a beginning, not an end. She'd train harder, grow stronger, carry her father's lessons into a future where silence wasn't weakness, but a weapon. The world had seen her, not as the ghost girl, but as something else entirely. A force, undeniable, unstoppable. And as she walked through the school, her head high, her book a quiet shield, Mia knew she'd never shrink again. The whispers in the cafeteria had turned to cheers, and MidnightTales had made sure the world knew her name. Her father's voice echoed in her mind as she stepped into the sunlight outside the school, the weight of the scholarship file in her bag. Don't bark, Mia, strike. She didn't need to perform for the crowd or answer their taunts with words. Her fists, her focus, her unbreakable calm, they were her response. The bullies had wanted a reaction, a spectacle, but they'd gotten something else, a lesson. Mia wasn't invisible anymore, and she didn't need to be. The world had seen what silence could do, and MidnightTales had amplified it, turning her story into a beacon for anyone who'd ever been underestimated. Silent strength wasn't just a hashtag, it was her truth, and she'd carry it with her, from the cafeteria to Tokyo and beyond.